Hello and welcome to BioFarm 2020, coming to you live from Carrick-on-Shannon here in lovely Leitrim. My name is Darragh McCullough and I'm delighted to be back at this event again this year. A very different event, of course, from last year, but important nonetheless, and possibly more important than ever given the targets and challenges that are being placed in front of the entire agricultural sector. The man behind the scenes here who's been working on this all week and indeed for the preceding months is of course Sean McGlone, who's the manager of the National Organic Training SkillNet. Sean, this conference must have been, dare I say it, a bit of a nightmare to organise?
Yes, in a way, yes. But can I just say, everybody, you're very, very welcome. We've taken 6-8 months at this. We start nearly after the previous year, and everything was a normal then. It was until probably March. It was the hotel was booked. We were aiming for 350 odd people, and everything was grand. With some of our speakers lined up. COVID hit, and we changed it about 5 times. And in the last lockdown, we said, you know, let's just chill out here a little bit and just go online and see what happens. Yeah. Because that's one of the things we've noticed this year is, and sometimes you don't always think that farmers are actually quite an amazing take-up of technology, and they've actually moved to this Zoom role quite good.
So what kind of level of interest have you got for the conference going on this week?
We had a target of around 300, but we're actually hitting, let's say, close to 900 now. 900, yeah.
Subscribers.
Yeah. There was 120 people between last night and today.
Which is fantastic. And I suppose indicative, you've got a fantastic programme with speakers from all over, not just the country, but all over the world, right?
Yeah, yeah. And I suppose that is another advantage. You didn't have to cover the cost of bringing all these people over and back. So you could attract a huge volume of people and reduce the costs as well. And yeah, it worked out really, really well. Like, we've got what's basically the who's who of the regenerative world or biological world out there.
And of those 900 subscribers for this week's broadcast, are they all organic farmers?
No, there's a very strong mix. It's probably about 50-50, I would say, or maybe even a little bit more on the conventional side. It's very hard to know.
Has that always been the case?
No, but it is changing. It is changing. I think there's pulls and pushes here, you know, like the whole issue around agriculture and where it sits in environmental management and climate change is one element, but also EU policy in terms of the aim for farm to fork, the 25% organic land area is probably quite an exciting carrot for some people as well.
Okay, well, I know that we've got a pretty full agenda, so we better crack on. Yeah. And I know that the Minister with special responsibility for land use and biodiversity, and of course that includes organic sector, is of course Pippa Hackett, who couldn't be here in person today, but I know that she had a little chat with Sean in the last 24 hours.
Thanks very much, Darragh, and hello Minister, and thanks very much for sitting down and having a chat.
Not at all, Sean, and thank you very much for inviting me to take part in your event. I think BioFarm is a fantastic event. I think the agriculture sector is much richer because of it. I remember attending your inaugural event in Tullamore in 2018 and was really just in awe of the information, and I think there was a lot of seeds planted in a lot of heads at that stage as to the values of regenerative farming, and I think it's great. So I wish you well for this week. And hope it'll be very interesting for all the people online watching it.
Yeah, thanks very much. You know, COVID-19 has put so much pressures on everybody now that we were actually very unsure how we're going to deliver this. So online has worked for a lot of other stuff. So we're hoping for the next week we'll get a decent take up on it. We have quite a lot of people already booked in, so we're looking forward to the event. I would like to ask, when we have this time, some of the questions, and I suppose at the moment the whole area of climate change, agriculture is all merging together, and I suppose one of the main focus would be the EU Farm to Fork programme. It's a very ambitious target, particularly for organic farming, with this idea of an increase to 25% organic land area. In my opinion, actually, farmers will probably be relatively open to the idea because I think we're in that transition. However, one of the great concerns would be market development and promotion that would differentiate the organic food offering from other products or other produce, and that there is always an issue that we degrade that offering. With regard to that, is it fair to ask, we'll say, the likes of Bord Bia to market both organic and conventional agriculture simultaneously? As we all know, a marketer's role is to enhance the benefits of his products. So how can they sell organic products, as this would paradoxically suggest that conventional products are of a lesser quality? It's a real issue, I think, that probably needs to be addressed.
No, I think it's a fair point, and I think we should expect nothing less of Bord Bia to promote organic produce. Obviously, at the moment, organic produce makes up a very small fraction of our total agricultural produce. And on the whole, it does command a higher premium price. Some might argue it's not enough, but I think that's an argument that's reflected in other sectors also. I suppose I don't think that we should be maybe using the suggestion that conventional products are of a lesser quality to promote organic products. I think organic produce should be able to stand on its own merits. And I think ultimately we should really be aspiring to raise the standards of all agricultural production, conventional and organic alike. And I think there is great potential there for the conventional sector in particular to maybe move to another level with the help of regenerative and biological farming practices. I think there's a potential there. But I think definitely we must ensure that Bord Bia takes a balanced approach. And if there's anything I can do in my role as minister to help with that, I certainly will do what I can to ensure that organic produce gets the proper marketing tools thrown at it that it needs.
Okay, and I suppose following on from that question, the development of the organic sector to meet EU needs, it is, I suppose, in many ways a 13-fold increase. Can you give us any assurance or commitment that the organic scheme budget will be increased in order to facilitate that change?
I think, to reach those targets, I think in all honesty, that the farm to fork targets of 25% are probably beyond the scope of our country at this moment to reach, considering we've such a low amount of land farmed organically here, just in the region of 2%. And that was acknowledged really in the programme for government negotiations. And, we did collectively agree to aspire to reach the average EU land area for Irish land. So, as part of that process, we agreed to try and hit maybe 7 or 8% of Irish land farmed organically in the term of this government. So that's quite a sizable increase from the sort of 2% we're on. And I think potentially it will set us on the road, on a good road for the latter half of this decade, and who knows how close we might get to that EU farm to fork strategy target. But I was glad to increase the budget for the organic farming scheme by over 33% in this in budget 2021. So hopefully that will put us on a good stead from next year. So I'm looking forward to seeing that implemented.
When we look at agriculture in the future and even in a future organic scheme, one of the areas that I always have felt has probably got slightly left behind was the role of horticulture. I deal a lot with organic vegetable growers, in particular small-scale growers. But what has really struck me is the fact that they have been able to make from anything from a half an acre to 5 acres, they've been able to make very sustainable, financially viable businesses on very small acreages. But because our payment system is more area-based, there is always that issue that these guys don't get the benefit of that other farming enterprises get. And, it would probably take 80 to 100 acres of agricultural land and livestock or tillage to give the same potential income of specialist organic horticulture. And is it something that in future programs, like I'm conscious of the fact the new CAP coming down the road, that this should be factored in, because these guys are creating far more employment in rural areas than any other farming enterprise?
Yeah, you're right about the importance of horticulture. I think many people are unaware of just how important horticulture is in this country as a whole. It is the fourth largest agri-food sector, behind dairy and beef and pig meat, and it employs thousands and thousands of people directly and indirectly on a small area of land. So I mean, the scope there is huge. I think in terms of organic horticulture production, I think we do need to, look at the mechanisms of support in that sector. And it is something I am thinking about, definitely in the context of the overall scheme and budget for that sector, even in terms of next year. So I certainly will give it a lot of thought, because I think the issues you raised there are right.
Great, okay. And a slightly different question then, and it's something that's probably closer to your heart, is the whole issue around forestry. It's pretty apparent that the department won't be able to meet its planting targets now or in the future. However, agroforestry looks like a real alternative. Can you give us any assurance that agroforestry programme is in the future is a priority, and that the scheme would focus on a results-based approach? And maybe you could fill us in on where do you see agroforestry fitting into a biological and regenerative system?
Yeah, you're right. Forestry has been, a rather, I suppose, problematic sector of late. Look, it's a problem I inherited, in my role, and I'm determined to fix it, because it's not only just for the industry, but also for all those communities affected by forestry, and indeed the environment. And I think there is scope for a much broader approach to forestry. I think in terms of, I am acting, I mean, there was legislation brought in to deal with the delay in the appeals. There's also an issue with the delay in licensing, and that has certainly compounded people's opinions in a negative sense about forestry. But I am starting to put together a new forestry policy group, which will be made up of a number of stakeholders from the environmental side, from industry, indeed from government agencies. And I'm hopeful that the likes of agroforestry will play a large role in that. I think it has an exciting role to play. I mean, I think the benefits, not only to farms themselves, are fairly well documented in terms of, soil quality and soil stability, benefits for biodiversity, animal shelter, and so forth. And I think, if we also plant trees that can produce food in their own right, whether it's fruit or nuts, I think that added potential income value for farmers has to be recognised as well as important. I think there's an awful lot to like about it. It's certainly something I want to push. I mean, I'd be really enthusiastic about trying out my own farm. I haven't done it yet, but I was just chatting to my husband there yesterday about it, and he was like, oh yeah, I'd love to, and I certainly would love to do something with trees that produce food as well. We've huge scope there, and I think it fits nicely in with the sort of regenerative farming piece also. So it's something I'm enthusiastic about for sure.
Great, thanks. Yeah, I just see it as a win-win for everybody. Finally, we're getting back to us with BioFarm, but biological agriculture is a relatively new concept in Ireland. While it ticks all the boxes from climate change, agriculture, much of what happens depends on your department. And we'll hear this through the thing about the focus of how policy we might need to change. What are your views on this as Minister, and do you see department support more of this approach in the future?
Yeah, well, I mean, it's something personally I'm very interested in promoting. I mean, I can speak even from my own farm. Look, we've seen the benefits of some regenerative practices. Now, we haven't gone, as far as mob grazing just yet, but it might be something we might trial a bit of on certain parts of the farm next year just to see how it goes. But we do farm organically, and we can see how the incorporation over the last number of years of, mixed species swards has. And we're very much, I suppose, looking forward, trying to, not disturb our soil so much, and really would love to, get away from a whole reseeding program entirely. And we are making that progress. But I think there's clearly a strong interest in this area. You can see it's growing over the last number of years here. And I think, in addition to this your own particular BioFarm conference, you've got like you've got the Farming for Nature group, which are doing work in this part as well. And I suppose, you've groups like, Regenerative Farming Ireland, who can, people, there's a lot of communication now, I think, there between Irish farmers. And I think that peer-to-peer learning is hugely important. I think from a departmental perspective, my department, support. I mean, you'll be familiar with the European Innovation Partnership type locally led schemes.
Yes.
I think there's great scope there. Now, I know that my department is currently supporting the Danu farming group, which is really aimed at educating farmers on biological farming practices and helping them to transition from more conventional ways to a more regenerative way of farming. I certainly would love and hope to really build on those types of schemes, certainly in this space as well. And I think it really has to be something we have to embrace in terms of farming of the future. We can't forever rely on fossil fuel based and synthetic inputs. There are better ways of doing it.
Okay, and that's great. And I suppose this is where we leave it, but it's very, very positive that a minister is talking like this. I think that's the first thing I would say. Thanks very much, Minister. It's great when you're organising programmes and you're talking with maybe a farmer's hat on, that you feel that the minister has similar positive views. So I would like to take this time to say thanks very much again, and we look forward to seeing you again in the future.
And look, thank you very much, Sean, as well. I hope the week goes really well. I'm sure the online audience will glean an awful lot of valuable information from it. And certainly within my role as Minister for Land Use and Biodiversity, I'm really looking forward to seeing a greater uptake of those nature-friendly farming practices. They don't only help us deliver on environmental commitments, but I think they also deliver for farmers and deliver even better quality food. So listen, I'll try and tune into as many of your presentations as possible, but listen, best wishes for the week, and thank you very much.
Thank you.
So that was Sean McGlowan speaking with the Minister for State at the Department of Agriculture, Pippa Hackett, who of course has special responsibility for organics. Sean, I suppose we might have been a little bit guilty of assuming everyone understands how this week is going to work at the start, because lots of people are interested. They're going to have a lot of technical information thrown at them this week, but if they want to chime in with their own questions or comments, how is that going to work, especially if some of the packages are pre-recorded?
Yeah, well, the first of all is there's going to be a Q&A that they can type in questions to us, which will be given to you, Dara, to ask, because all the Q&As will be live, apart from Alan Savory's. Unfortunately, Alan has an issue that came up last minute, so he couldn't be available. So we've pre-recorded questions for him. But everybody else, we were worried when we started about particularly farmers in Ireland, that broadband in certain areas and rural areas isn't up to Zoom speed, for want of a better word. So we actually went and pre-recorded those
as a kind of a safety net.
Yes. Yeah. And so they're going to come in live. The broadband will be good enough to Q&As, because the broadband width won't be as required as
so even though a speaker may have pre-recorded their session, they will then be live online after their session has been broadcast, and they can interact then live with the questions that are coming in.
Yes, absolutely. And we're getting a few emails in on, is this available afterwards if you can't watch it live? And it will be. Next Monday afternoon, or with guaranteed by Tuesday, you will have the links to everything for as long as you want then.
But you've got 5 days of speakers. You're
yes.
going to have a big
No, we're going to split them down into daily segments. So you can just click on one and you'll get that one, or you'll have almost a menu of options.
And that's not going to be emailed into people's PCs that it's going to crash their system or anything like that?
No, absolutely not. It'll be all done through links.
And it's up in the cloud.
Yes. Yeah.
Great.
So don't worry about that element of it.
Take us through not just the lineup today, but maybe the lineup over the coming 4 days.
Yeah, well, I suppose when we decided we're going to put this online, then we had already asked Dr. Christian Jones to come back, because we wanted a bit of continuity from last year. But to get people like Alan Savory or Greg Judy, and it's trying to get key people in key areas, whether it's livestock or tillage, or some influential people that would be well known, like, for example, Gabe Brown on Wednesday and Nicole Masters. So it's trying to find people that are in many ways pioneered in this. And look, there are some areas, for example, not everything that Gabe Brown will do would work in an Irish context because of seasonality. But I suppose it's trying to show people what can be done, what possibly could work, and then you have to maybe follow your own intuition on what will actually work in an Irish context. So there's all these different people. There's a new area of this whole area called Korean natural farming, which Chris Trump will be delivering an introduction onto it. There's 1 or 2 farmers already practicing this in Ireland.
Just give that to me again.
Korean natural farming, and it's the use of, I actually don't want to misrepresent it, but it's as much about the whole idea of using fermentation techniques as part of a soil analysis. It is biological agriculture, and it's just a slightly different approach to it. So there's a couple of people who have started in Ireland, and they look to be getting some decent results initially, but it is still early to tell. So we'll see how that goes. Then we have some Bruno Follador from Brazil, who would be one of the world's leading experts on composting. So again, he's taken that to a new level. So yeah, we have Christopher Cook coming from the Savory Institute as well, 3LM, on holistic management, looking at particularly holistic grazing and how this can work for beef and dairy farmers. Jim Cronin, you've met Jim last year. Jim has his observations on biological agriculture in the last year in a horticultural context.
Jim's star continues to rise.
Absolutely.
Of course, a recent winner in the National Farming for Nature Awards.
Yes.
So,
and a great example maybe of where a farmer can be very commercial, intensive, and still do that thing with nature. You know what I mean? Sometimes we always think they're not, but Jim has managed it.
And he's still proud to be farming without a single farm
Absolutely,
payment.
absolutely.
Is every speaker here this week going to be an organic farmer or
No.
organic practitioner, or are there conventional
No,
farmers?
it's very much a mixed bag. For example, David Wallace is doing an introduction on how you get started in biological agriculture, and David will be coming from that mixed area, and he's part of the leader of the EIP group, the Danu group, and they'd be, I don't know, maybe 50-50 or 60-40 organic conventional. I'm not exactly sure what it is. I'm not even sure whether Greg Judy is an organic farmer or not, but he's one of the leaders in this whole mob grazing area. So it's very much a mixed bag. And Hamish Beliski from New Zealand, he's a mixed livestock farmer, and as far as I know, he's conventional.
Is this kind of further evidence of all farming, whether it's conventional or organic or anything in between? They seem to be merging gradually, slowly but surely, as the amount of pesticides that are available for use in conventional farming are being reduced all the time.
Yeah.
Conventional farmers find themselves adopting a lot of organic techniques?
Yeah, I think you see that, and particularly the lads in horticulture will start to tell you that they're moving closer to what an organic model would be. But also I think in Ireland you see it, and I'm sure this is in other countries. Beef is a great example of how it has been very poor conventionally, and it's a lot of guys would say they've lost too much money in over the years. But I suppose biological agriculture is looking at this in this sense that livestock is a key element of how you're going to address carbon and carbon issues in soils. But also, if you stop chasing maybe kilos in yield and you look at costs, input costs, that maybe there's an opportunity there for beef to become much more sustainable and to keep the farmers on the farm. Another thing that is really good that is coming up on Thursday is Dr. Jim McAdam. You might know him. He's a specialist in agroforestry from Queen's University. Jim is now retired, but he's been working with some of us on this idea of agroforestry. And to me, this is a win-win. Like, you have to meet government and EU targets and planting trees, but you don't want to be pushing farms off the land. What if you could integrate the two of them and have some payments towards that ecosystem service of carbon sequestration? Okay,
well, that's just a flavour of what's to come during the next today and indeed over the next 4 days. But I think it'd be remiss of us to continue any further without giving the floor to the official sponsors of this event. And of course, the event couldn't happen without the help of sponsors, and that is, of course, SkillNet Ireland. And here to talk to us is Dave Flynn, who is the Executive Director of SkillNet Ireland.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm delighted to be here at the opening of BioFarm 2020 and to see such a huge interest in this year's event. Can I start by acknowledging Minister Hackett's participation and to commend the Irish Government's commitment to biodiversity and climate action, and the Minister as a champion for biological agriculture in Ireland. I'd also like to thank Sean and the team at National Organic Training SkillNet, or NOTS for short, for all the work behind the scenes in securing such a wealth of national and international expertise to contribute to the conference over the course of this week. For those of you who haven't heard of us, Skillet Ireland is a business support agency with 20 years experience in building a business-led national network across Ireland, focused on delivering the current and future skills required by industry throughout the country. Our approach provides a way for businesses to work collectively to identify the key challenges and opportunities affecting the industry or region, and for industry to lead in the development of responses to those challenges and opportunities through workforce development, through focus on skills and talent. The approach is industry-led, and because of this, it gets to the heart of issues affecting businesses, helping them to be more productive, more innovative, to grow, to adapt, and to be sustainable. The approach creates competitive advantage for sectors and regions through workforce design. In other words, enabling the organic sector, for example, to analyse its current and future workforce needs, to identify any gaps between the two, and to address those gaps through the development of new initiatives, new programs, new skill sets that support the industry, ensuring that farms and other businesses within the sector have the right skills with the right people at the right time. Skillet Ireland will support close to 20,000 companies throughout Ireland this year. And of course, 2020 has been a very difficult year for businesses and workers in Ireland and across the world. The hospitality, tourism, aviation, and retail sectors have been very badly hit here. But we're also seeing a huge amount of creativity and innovation as companies find new ways of doing business, new ways of getting their products out there, new ways of reaching existing customers and finding new ones. One of the things that we're also seeing over the last 7 months is an even greater acceleration of the digital and the green economy in Ireland as a result of COVID-19. We're supporting the green economy by developing the capacity of industry to reduce utility usage, to adopt more sustainable production methods, to reskill people employed in traditional fossil-based industries, to reskill people for renewable energy production, to develop the capacity of the banking and finance sector to increase green and sustainable investment, and of course, through our long-standing commitment to the organic sector through National Organic Training Skillnet. A huge amount of focus will be needed in this area in the coming years, and Skillet Ireland is very much committed to developing skills and talent, which is going to be a critical component in implementing Ireland's Climate Action Plan. I understand that biological agriculture is a relatively new concept here in Ireland. Skillet Ireland is delighted to support related training and development through National Organic Training Skillnet. And over the last 4 years, NOS has led the way with the provision of training and networking in this area. From our perspective, biological agriculture has very strong green credentials with respect to addressing climate change. We're very proud to announce that National Organic Training Skillnet will be rolling out its new Masters in Biological and Organic Agriculture with Waterford IT in September 2021. Undoubtedly, as I've said, COVID-19 has created significant pressures for businesses in Ireland. But as we look ahead, one of the positive developments that we've seen has been the desire for consumers to seek out local, premium, quality food. As we overcome this COVID challenge, I see the organic sector as very well poised to capitalise on new opportunities both here in Ireland and abroad. Biological agriculture perfectly aligns with national and EU policy. I believe that the future is very bright and it provides a real opportunity for Irish farmers and growers. I'd like to take this opportunity once again to thank the members of National Organic Training Skillnet, and as Sean informs me, the demand for related training in this area is surging and it's very strongly led by the membership. BioFarm 2020 is a truly international conference, and I know that as well as hundreds of Irish delegates watching today, we have viewers from the USA, Canada, the UK, Australia, New Zealand, France, Spain, Portugal, Brazil, Ghana, and more. You're all very welcome, and Skillet Ireland hopes that you'll find the coming days to be insightful, to provoke lots of thought and discussion, and for it to be a truly great opportunity to network, to learn, and to share your knowledge and expertise. Thank you.